Have you ever been told that you're kinda lazy? A little difficult maybe? Or just disorganized? Well, what if I told you those so-called flaws aren't flaws at all? We're going to dive into how some of these common negative traits might actually be the calling card of a highly intelligent mind.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Is your desk less of a workspace and more of a creative explosion? Is sarcasm basically your first language? Do you get your best ideas way after everyone else has gone to bed? If you're sitting there nodding along, then yeah, you've probably heard a thing or two about it.
But here's the cool part. While society might slap a label on these things and call them problems, psychology has a totally different take. It suggests your brain isn't broken. It's just running a different kind of operating system, one that's actually optimized for high performance. Let's get into what that really means.
Okay, so to really get why these traits are connected to intelligence, we need to talk about one single powerful idea. This is the main principle, the secret code behind how a really smart brain works.
And that principle is something called cognitive efficiency. You can think of it like this. Your brain is lazy, but in the absolute smartest way possible. It's always, and I mean always, looking for the path of least resistance so it can save up its energy for the stuff that actually matters. It's an automatic triage system, pushing the big, complex problems to the front of the line.
All right, so let's put that idea to the test. Let's start with Exhibit A, the messy desk. It's the classic sign of someone who's supposedly disorganized, right? But is it really?
You know, the common view is to see the mess and just think chaos and laziness. But a psychologist sees something completely different. They see a brain that's made a very logical calculation. Why waste precious mental energy tidying up a stack of papers when you're busy wrestling with a way bigger idea?
In fact, there's a great name for this: selective organization. See, a brilliant mind isn't disorganized at all. It's just prioritizing what it organizes. All that energy you save by not color-coding your files, that gets rerouted into solving that tricky bit of code, or cracking a business problem, or figuring out the perfect ending for your story.
All right, next up is a flaw that I think many of us know and love: sarcasm. It gets a bad rap for being snarky or negative, but in reality, it's one of the most sophisticated things our brains can do with language.
So the myth is that being sarcastic is just a way of being difficult. The reality? Both giving and getting sarcasm is like taking your brain to the gym for a high-intensity workout. It forces multiple parts of your brain to fire in perfect, lightning-fast sync.
There's a technical term for this, and it's called cognitive complexity. It's the brain's ability to juggle multiple and often totally contradictory pieces of information all at the same time. And sarcasm is the perfect example of this, because the entire point is that what you say is the exact opposite of what you mean. I mean, just think about what your brain does in a split second. It has to perform 3 huge steps. First, it hears the actual words. Oh great, another meeting. Then it instantly analyzes the tone, the situation, the look on the person's face. And finally, it decodes the real message. I would rather be anywhere else. That's not being difficult. That is incredibly fast mental processing.
And finally, let's talk about the night owl. For literally centuries, we've been fed this idea that the early bird gets the worm, right? Which pretty much leaves night owls looking like lazy procrastinators. But science is starting to tell a very different story.
So, the old myth is that staying up late is just a bad, unproductive habit. But more and more research is pointing in the exact opposite direction. The reality is that people whose body clocks are naturally set to night mode often show way higher levels of creativity and innovative thinking.
So what is the night owl's edge? Well, for one, from an evolutionary point of view, staying up while the rest of the group is asleep is a kind of deviant behavior, a tendency to go against the grain. And that trait is a hallmark of explorers and creative minds. Plus, let's be honest, the pure, uninterrupted quiet of the late hours is the absolute perfect incubator for deep thinking and problem solving.
So, when you look at messiness, sarcasm, and staying up late, a pretty clear pattern starts to show up, doesn't it? Let's tie this all together.
Here's the single most important takeaway. The things you've been told are your bugs, they might actually be your best features. That messy desk, that sharp wit, those late-night bursts of genius, they are not signs that you're doing something wrong. They are the fingerprints of a brain that is hardwired for efficiency, for complexity, and for creativity. They are signs of a brilliant mind doing what it does best.
And that really just leaves us with one last question to chew on. Instead of trying to fix every little quirk you have, maybe it's time to try and understand them. So go ahead and ask yourself, what supposed flaw do you have that might actually be your secret superpower?